How's everybody doing today? Trying to get motivated. Ready to get started, of course. Roll Tide. Watch the football game. So, of course, you know how we do it. If you got any questions, just put them in the chat and we'll pivot from it. There it is. See myself on my phone. So we rocking and rolling. Happy Sunday. So continue with the classes, going over the super intro, basics of AWS, kind of from a security perspective. So people roll in when they roll in. So let's go over the couple videos I did this week. Kind of do that to let people fall in. What's up, American Negro? High professional black. When will you take your AWS cert? I'm hoping end of December. I got to get motivated, GM. JM, I, I ain't gonna lie. Hopefully this summer. What's up, She? Glad you came. What's up, Game Over? What's up, Ty? So let's go over a couple videos I just did this week. Then we're going into the networking part, the super basic networking part of AWS. So of course, what's up? Fire us 100. So yeah, I don't, Zelle gets actually it wasn't even Zelle. Customers that have Zelle continue to get phishing attacks, and they keep letting people remote into their phones and actually giving them their password, right? So, so of course they don't have to defeat two-factor authentication. Why? Because they gave them their phone. So I don't want to blame Zelle, but I guess we got to get a little more, as we call it at work, security awareness training out there, so people don't get tricked by this random email. Then somebody sends you a phone call just because it says Chase Bank or Bank One or some big bank, right? Spoofing, spoofing that is super easy. So I don't know. I don't think we're getting any better. Do you get nervous or anxiety when you take exam search for these days? Not really anymore, JM. The reason I don't get very nervous anymore is my job don't depend on search anymore. I'm thinking about going back to DOD, and I got to check. I think my I wasn't very smart. I think I let my security plus lapse. And to work at DOD, you got to have a 8550 or 8570 means you need a cert in the field you're working in, right? But no, Jam, I don't really get nervous anymore because once again, people just kind of hire me because they kind of know my because I've been in the game so long. So people hire me because they know my skill set, JM. I'm just kind of lucky. That's one of the benefits of being old, JM. So and two is a lot of cool guys I've met in the manosphere told me they'll walk my resume over to their hiring managers. Shout out a couple of those guys work for big consulting companies, JM. So that's why I don't really get nervous anymore. And two, when I was younger, it's like, oh, I got to pass it on the first time. If I just need to retake it, I don't take it personal. Like I tell everybody, I've been in the game for 30 years, but there's so much to learn, man. Like I said, I'm trying to get my AWS skills up. So, nah, Jam, I don't do that anymore. My bank account has the Zelle platform inside a bank account. No, that's not risky, Jam. Zelle is pretty good. It's the people not following good. I hate this word, security hygiene. I don't know why I hate the word hygiene. Now, Jam, I think the people that are turning their phone over to hackers and crooks are the problem, not actually the Zelle app. I think they're pretty secure. This one kind of bothered me a little bit. Not a ton. The only rules I got in life are very few is leave little kids alone, don't smack women, and try to be a decent person on the planet. That's the only rings I wear. So when you see pedophiles trying to follow kids on their smartwatches because the GPS is not secure, and you can actually log into the kid's watch with password 12345 on these smartwatches. So I did a video on that. So keep this baby safe. That's my number one thing. Keep the baby safe. So that's one of the few things that bother me. But I probably do a few more toy videos. I probably try to look on Amazon and see the top electronic internet toys and see what they look like from a security perspective. I actually reached out to one of the companies to try to get some security documentation. They told me to pound sand. So I don't think they want me reviewing their products, people. I think they hating on me. So but no, that's what I did. You can look in the archives. So and this one people liked. I did ageism last week, and a lot of people like that. Being in the industry for 30, 30 plus years, yeah, 30 plus years. How do I believe ageism affects people? What do I think that you need to do as an older person to stay relevant, keep your skills up? What's up? She stole my thunder. Uh, Great book reading today. I'm trying to get a little more tranquility in my life. So shout out to She Stole My Thunder. I'm supporting her trying to read my Game of Thrones book. So I was doing that. But now, so I talked to a lot of people like it. So realization is ageism is definitely a part of it. But if your skills at a certain level, your skills has to match your age, that match your salary, right? Because if you make accredited investor money, shout out to Tim from Linux and Linux, women in Linux. I got to get it together. And shout out to Black Heights. You know, they talking about making 250,000 dollars a year. So to get paid that amount of money, right, you got to have a certain amount of skills, right? So if I could get somebody 20 years younger that's going to do it cheaper and work more hours than you, right, that's a business decision, right? So you got to make sure those things keep up they keeps up with your age and your salary. And of course, too, is you want to stay relevant in the industry, right? I laugh because I started out doing mainframe, a little COBOL. I started out doing client server, and now we're in object oriented web, NoSQL. People talking about programming satellites and hooking links up to the moon. Right? It's just so many things you can learn. Shout out to I'm sure you'll pop in engineering, cannabis, machine learning, and artificial intelligence. There's just so many things to learn. So you got to figure out what you're gonna specialize in and what's gonna make you your bag. To live the lifestyle you live in. Right. Most people know I do federal security. I make my life on the federal government. Right. I actually work for a private company, but I've been doing federal work, so that's where they usually place me at federal clients. And I'm thinking about maybe working for one of the bigger consulting firms, maybe as a supervisor or manager, right? And so I'm just thinking about it. So my contract's up in June. So the client I work for offered me a high value man salary. So I'm trying to figure out if I'm gonna take it or if I'm gonna try to do something bigger. Shout out to Black Heights and that Fang type money, right? That Silicon Valley type money, right? So that he said Trudy board money. I don't eat a lot of cheese in Indiana, but shout out to that. So we about to get started. Let's see, man. I'm trying to become fresh. I'm trying not to become frustrated and learning new things. So much knowledge in a short time. Yeah, Ty, don't get frustrated. Just pick something and focus. I think too, and I'm bad about this. Is you can't learn everything at one time. Um, so that's the benefit of being 30 years in the game for me, though, right? That's the cheat code, right? Because I've done programming for 10 or 15 years. I've been an application DBA. I've been a web server admin. I've been a federal compliance. I've done security. Shout out! I told you, engineering cannabis, right there. See, so yeah, like we were talking about, and I think that's what we need to start pushing to is I think we just forget about artificial intelligence and machine learning. And I think if you're good at programming, that's the next step to that to get that 800K bag, right? And bidding on AI work and government work and starting your own company like engineering cannabis. But nobody's listening to that because he's the only one I know doing machine learning and AI. And two is, and I looked at it and shout out to him. I'm doing a pre-recorded stream on all AWS machine learning products, and there are a couple artificial intelligence. They have kind of this no code where you can pick stuff and feed it data in Java to help it learn. So I'm gonna do that stream straight out for engineering cannabis. He keeps challenging me, so I got that on the docket. I was working on my slides for that. I was surprised how many services AWS had in there. So since I'm trying to learn AWS, I combined it with engineering cannabis machine learning, to kind of put those two together. But I was presently surprised how many services they had and trying to do no code, and of course making it easier to get people into machine learning. So that's why I think that's really because the more I think about it, I programmed for 15 years. I have a statistical background. I do mathematics. I got an MBA. So when you do all that and added that to machine learning, right? That should be like the natural progression, right? If from get these slides up. If you just think it from systems programming, then start, machine learning is just a different type of programming. They have Java, they have APIs, they things you need to learn to put the statistics with the machine learning, right, to get the overall learning. But that's just another step, on top of programming, right? So now you're adding your programming with your stats and your math. Now you're in a game that a lot of people are just not even familiar with, that machine learning game. Let's see. Hello to everyone in chat. During your IT career, do you have to move? Did you have to move a lot for your job? No, James, I never moved, man. I've been in Indiana my whole life. I kind of regretted it. I've been here. There's a nice diversification of industries here. So I've worked in everything from Fortune 500 pharmaceutical company, um, membership company, Department of Defense, Fortune 500 insurance company. Now I've been in the same place, Jim. I've never driven more than 40 minutes to get the jobs. I'm kind of in the center of the state, and I'm in the state capital. So now, Jam, I just was lucky. So there's just a lot of work here, and a lot of people got tired of living in Silicon Valley, so a couple of the big boys actually moved to Indianapolis, where I'm at. I'm just gonna throw that out. Salesforce just moved here, and Oracle's here. Not their big office; they have satellite offices here. Um, and Microsoft's got a super small satellite, so I've been working with them. So I actually got contacts in both of them. I'm thinking about maybe going to Salesforce, working as a compliance manager for federal work. Once again, Black Heights, shout out to him. Go subscribe. Is I usually help their sales team get into state agencies. So I want part of the sales. I want part of the gross of the sales, what companies bring in, because I think that's how Black Heights make his money. I just never thought about being on the sales team because when big companies come into government, you got to pass HIPAA, FERPA, FISMA if you're doing DOD, and I kind of know that stuff with my eyes closed, so I know the questions to ask and how to get those products in and pass those type of compliances from a federal level. So it got me thinking about it. So today we once again it's introduction to basics. We're gonna always touch on the cybersecurity mark. This actually is the foundation one, the super one. The super beginning one is the AWS practitioner, right? Um, I just don't memorize like I used to. So you got to memorize quite a few services and a few things. So I got to get my memory dusted off. But besides that, everything is. So we're going to touch on network, public, and private. Amazon Virtual Private Cloud, which is just basically doing networking in your private part of the cloud, right? And Amazon Route 3 is the DNS, right? How you routing these packets, right? The last time we talked about data centers all over the globe. We talked about local hosts. We talking about caching, and they had local hosts, right? So you got your big data center. Then you had local hosts, which is smaller sites they had around to get the data quick to the customer. Then they had where you could actually put your static stuff out there, right? So you can pick it up to be even closer to the customer. Then they had the Amazon wavelength, right? So if you were actually going through a mobile app, they actually have data centers inside Verizon and all those. So when your app comes right into that, we call them a CLAC for telecos. You come in a CLAC, you don't have to go to AWS. They actually have virtual machines right in the Verizon and T-Mobile, right, to make sure your stuff is super quick, right? So that's the next level. So let's get it. Let's see, engineering. Salute. Tom 43 still climbing. Hey, Tom, we all still climbing the ladder. It's relative, right? I keep thinking someday the Do I ever want to be chief information security officer? A couple people asked me. I'm actually thinking about becoming a virtual CISO because people ask me to come in and help small companies, with the boring stuff, policies and procedures, um, disaster recovery, COOP, um, just how you going to handle your program? Are you agile? All the documentation for that. System security plan, because if you're doing it for the federal site or federal government, because you're trying to get work with them, those are like between 800 and 1,200 pages, right? That's the boring work. So the money is learning how to build your own AI architecture with AWS, use their own proprietary algorithms, relate your own, and make the money. Facts, engineering cannabis. Jam, that's good to know that there's no need to move to Silicon. Oh, no, especially now, Jam. The thing that the pandemic pushed out, a lot of people was giving remote workout. So a lot of people. So at worst, you might have to go there maybe 4 or 5 times a month at the most. Most people giving you total remote work now, especially if you're at a certain level. You can definitely get that remote work and get it in. Let's go on over this virtual private cloud or VPC. The VPC lets you provision a logically isolated section of AWS cloud where you launch your AWS research resources. This is the person you're in a virtual network that you define. Resources can be public facing, so you have access to the internet, or private with no internet access, and you usually for backend services like database application servers. The public and private grouping of resources known as subnets, and their ranges of IP addresses in your VPC. Right, so shout out to all the networking people and all the and even the networking plus. This is where it comes in because you have to securely configure how your packets move, routing, right? Your subnets, what subnets can talk too much, right? We talked about regions, right? So in your regions, you're gonna have availability zones. In those availability zones, you're gonna have multiple data centers. So how are you controlling your packets between those data centers, right? That's all networking, right? Thanks before the billion. Shout out before the billions. Go subscribe to him. Uh, young data scientist. Moving up in the world. I'm gonna have to get with before the billions, and we both get into AI. Have engineering cannabis help us move to AI with the programming, right? So now shout out to them, and there's a lot of content creators. Everybody go sub each other and support everybody. Um, but once again, this is where your network plus comes in, and even as a security professional, I'm decent at networking, but I need to be able to test what subnets are talking to. Are these the subnets that are separated? Like your web tier should never talk to your database tier, right? You should go web app database, right? So if my web tier can talk to my database, that's a problem. I need to break those up. Why? Your web tier is open up to the internet, so that's the first thing the hacker's going to get to 9 times 10 is your web tier. So if it gets right to your database, they can steal all your stuff. Right? So uh, Amazon VPC enables you to provision. I think I said that. Oh, provision section of AWS Cloud. In this isolated section, you can launch resource in a virtual network that you define. Within the virtual private cloud, you can organize your resources in a subnet. A subnet is a section of VPC that can contain resources such as Amazon EC2 instances, right? We're gonna start looking at that. And two is if you want to throw any security questions in the box, you know me, go ahead. We can always answer them and pivot back. Subnet route tables. Your VPC has an implicit router. You use your route tables to control your network traffic and how it's directed. Each subnet in your VPC must be associated with a route table, which controls the routing of the subnet route table. You can explicitly associate a subnet with a particular route. Otherwise, the subnet would implicitly associate it with the main route table. A subnet can be only associated with one route table at a time, and you can associate multiple subnets with the same subnet route table. Because right, when you're having a big architecture, right, you got the three basic ones web app and database. But of course, inside there, I'm gonna have a tier for my admins, right? So if you're working on of course, I'm a Java guy. If you're working on Apache, I'm gonna have a subnet for you to log in. Of course, it's gonna MFA, right? To make sure you who say you are, and you can work on the web tier or the app tier. My database guys on a different level. I'm gonna have them a separate subnet. They go in this subnet. It's actually gonna ask them for their MFA, and it's also gonna ask them for a USB token. Why do I want to have those two guys? If you get the database right, you done stole everything. Everything I have of value from a company is going to be in the database. I don't keep stuff on a file system. So if it's documentation, it's going to be on the database somewhere, right? So since those guys have keys to the most valuable thing, right? I'm gonna have them have two additional factors. Well, one additional factor, right? Password, MFA hit your phone. Then you're gonna have the USB drive, right? Put in the USB drive, it's gonna read that, right? Because I want to make sure you who I think you are, right? And two is those guys, we call it company owned equipment or agency owned equipment. So when they log on with a company equipment, right, it's going to have their token on their equipment. So I know it's them and I know they're using agency owned equipment, right? So if they try to log on with something that's not owned by the company, we're not going to let them on because we don't know the security of that device. If it's controlled by the company or, like I said, an agency, we're going to make sure the virus protection is updated. We're going to make sure the logon is updated. We're gonna make sure the OS is updated. We're gonna make sure the virus protection is updated. So you theoretically you won't have malware on your machine, right? So those are the things we're gonna make sure is happening on those Oracle data or on those Oracle database administrators, right? Because they got the keys to everything. Here's some quick things. I just jotted them down from a route table perspective of everything. Not everything, but I want to say 80% of, but from a beginning perspective of AWS had, right? Like you said, they got the main route table, custom route table, destination target, route table association, subnet route, like we talked about, local host, we talked about route, gateway route, and edge, right? Edge computing, right? Because if you need something super quick, right? They have the local host. Those clacks and data centers are in the middle of main cities. They just don't have the huge data center footprint. They're smaller because we might just have the web server so you can cache their data out and maybe have a couple lookup files when they look at their app, right? It's going to give them instantaneous response. While it's also going back to connect to AWS and it's going to be pulling data there, right? Because you don't want any lag time in that, right? So when you need that instantaneous sub 5 millisecond response, right? You're going to start using edge devices, right? Then you're going to need to use edge route table because where are you going to route that data to once you hit that edge device, right? If I'm in Tokyo, I'm not going back to the Silicon Valley data center. I'm gonna route you to our Tokyo AWS, right? Because AWS is spread around the world, so that routing tells it where to go to, right? And what's the closest area, and we'll dig more into that coming up. Here's a quick routing table. Super small. I should have got some more subnets on it. But as you can see, right, you got the custom route table at the top. We talked the main route table at the bottom. And those destination targets tells you how your packets move through your organization, right? What can talk to what and what can see what, right? Once again, if we know people gonna get on a web server, but can they get straight to the database server? Right. No, there's a virtual private gateway in there, right, for a VPN. That's for the corporate site. I just made that a little bigger. Back there, right, with the yellow, see this is corporate network. So how does your corporate traffic get to AWS through the VPC? How does your corporate traffic get validated, right? So how you control your routes of your package, how you validate those, and how you send them, right, is definitely a security issue, right? And that's the first level because if if you can't route to it and get the traffic to it, it's hard for it to hack, right? So that's why you want to first level security is controlling those routes. Let's see if anybody's in the chat. Sorry about that. Getting over this code. An internet gateway is a connection between the VPC and the internet. You can think of internet gateway as being similar to a doorway to customers. Without an internet gateway, no one can access your resources within your VPC. All right, so the internet gateway just tells the VPC this is open up to the internet. and we actually set up the internet traffic. And there's a picture of it. So you see the client. The client sends a request through the internet to the VPC. And we're in 2022, we're actually going to live this so you can actually see the internet gateway getting set up inside AWS. Of course, we start off everything in the console before we go through cloud formation and try to do it with automation, right? So, internet gateway, you're inside your VPC. That subnet would have the Apache web servers opening up to the internet, right? So that's basically it. We have internet traffic. We have our web server. Of course, if you do Amazon EC2, those are actually built-in web servers on the disk. You can actually put HTML pages on there. And if you actually put comma delimited, JSON, or flat file format, it's a product called S3 or Athena. You can actually query them straight off the disk. I don't know if I like that because if that's the first thing I hit from the internet and I got flat files on there with data, is that easier to hack or is it too close to the outside of the internet? But we're definitely going to set that up for demonstration purposes in January. So we're just going to use Amazon EC2 straight out the box. It's a web server. We're going to drop some HTML files on there and some comma delimited, probably some JSON. Shout out to Before the Billions. We was talking about JSON, so I probably put a couple JSON files on there and see if I can get the built-in S3 select to actually query it and populate some JSPs right there, all in that uh, open layer right there, all in one subnet. Like I said, from a security perspective, I don't know if I'll do that in real life, but that's going to be our first lab in 2022. JSP straight on the ES2. Um, because when you actually do the select, it's called Lambda. It's actually gonna spin up a VM right there underneath it. We're gonna query the JSON, populate the JSPs. Then once that's done, the resource is gonna release the virtual machine underneath because we're not using it anymore. So that's gonna be our first lab in 2022. So I'll probably collab with that on Before the Billions if you want to, because I know he's a data scientist. So I want to see if he wants to get a little AWS. So we might collab on that together. Shout out to the JSON. Let's see, you know anything about the company Global Link Solution? I got a second interview, not technician role there. I do not. I heard of it. I have no contacts there, AO. About that. Good luck, man. Hey, I caught you streaming. What's up, Adrian, Miss Nash? Brian Jogi, hello. Jam AWS customers that handle a lot of system shit. Can they request? Oh yeah, definitely. If you looked on our last stream, my last stream, yeah, you can definitely have a dedicated line. AWS is pretty good where you can actually go through the internet because all their traffic is actually encrypted. But if you had a special need, because they actually the dedicated line is probably less for security and more for speed. But yeah, JM, it's called a direct connect, and you can go direct connect from wherever you're at to AWS. I think I'm gonna do a joint collab with Network Bruh. He actually has hardware at his house, so we're actually gonna do a dedicated connect from his house to my AWS site. So I'm gonna hopefully do a joint collab on that jam. So we're gonna try to go through all of those different connections and just see how it actually works in the lab. Shout out to Dewan. We're gonna lab every day. For the billions. Shout out to Before the Billions. Where'd you hear about? Is that to me, AO? But now I have no knowledge of that company. The only thing I heard about it is don't they do satellites and telecommunications? That's all I heard about it, AO. I just heard about it just from reading some articles. That's all I heard about. I don't know if it's a good company, bad company. I heard they had some cool technology. That's about it. I haven't dug in. I would go out to Glassdoor because a lot of people tell if they're like, and a lot of times they have salaries out there. And two, a lot of times I like to look at other job postings from that company because it kind of tells you the infrastructure, what they're using, what they're looking for. And two is depending on what type of managers they're hiring, AO, it tells you if they're mature or not. If they try, I don't even, where do you don't have to tell me. I don't know what job you're going for, but if they're a network company, they trying to get more in the cloud and hire new managers, that means they're not really set up for that. They're trying to grow into that. Yeah, I know they're legit. That's about all I got, AO. So let's talk about virtual private gateway. To access private resources in the VPC, you can use a virtual private gateway. A virtual private gateway enables you to establish a virtual private network connection between your VPC and your private network, such as an on-prem data center or internal corporate network. A virtual gateway allows traffic in the VPC only if it's coming from an approved network. Right. So when we come in, right, we're checking our network router addresses to make sure it's coming into the VPC and it's not some other company or somebody spoof us or somebody's trying to track us. Right? So here's the VPN diagram. What it's looking like. So that's the corporate data center, right? That's your content router and your firewall from your corporation. VPN, and most people VPN from your house if you're working or have VPN software. So it's the same thing. So you just VPN in from your company, or two is your house if you want to work in. We coming in a virtual private gateway, right? Because the internet's open to the public. The private gateway is not, right? You gotta have the VPN password. You're not coming in the public. You kind of coming in the side door, right? So two, when you're coming in VPN, once again, we're gonna hit you with the MFA. All good, Ty. Um, you coming in, we're gonna hit you with the MFA. Why? We want to make sure you who you say you are, right? Because usually when you're coming in on a private gateway, see those are databases once again, so those are probably the DBAs. So we want to make sure they who they are, right? We want it's called NAC. We want to make sure their corporate device they're using is approved. Got the latest update. If not, we can force an update. It's the latest virus protection on it, right? We control all of that, right? And two is since you're going to database, we're going to do the YubiKey, right? We're going to do the MFA and the USB, right? Because we want to do three factor because we don't want you stealing the SSNs or the tax information or the HIPAA or any of the pertinent information. And I think JM just asked this. AWS Direct Connect is a service that enables you to establish a direct private connection between your data center and the VPS. The private hallway provides the same type of data connection as AWS Direct Connect. Residents residents are able to connect without needing to use public share road. The private connection with the AWS Direct Connect provides help you with the reduced network costs and increase the amount of bandwidth you can travel. So once again, you're bypassing internet. Usually, you got to get fiber or something, pull or a special clack or connection from your teleco, right? Verizon or one of those, right? They have dark fiber all around the city, so they give you the direct connection and actually have them all set up to actually go to AWS, and it controls how your traffic gets directly to AWS, right? So that's the AWS Direct Connect. And JM, so this is what it would look like. So that's the content controller, the AWS direct location, customer or partner router, AWS correct connect endpoint. You can Google those. Like I said, a lot of those are telecom companies, right? Because they already got that fiber down there, right? So you do that direct connect straight in a virtual private gateway, public subnet, or you could go to the private subnet, right? Depends on like we talked about. Once you get in that private gateway, where do you have that traffic routing to? Right. So you control that. So once again, extra security, more speed, definitely more expensive, right? When you having your own dark fiber or fiber optics or even direct connect, right? You paying extra for that. Right? The people that have stuff like that are hedge funds. Um, Facebook has their own. Of course, they own Instagram. It's because you need millisecond response, right? So that's one reason you want to do that. And two is, like Jim said, from a security perspective, you would actually physically have to tap that line, right? So, what's up, Destination Dad? All right, thanks for letting us know. This is my first IT role. I see it as a way to get experience. No, that's fine. Congratulations, AO. Like I said, if you always down, if you need any questions, just hit me up an email. If you get stuck at work or you need to talk about something, if I got any expertise, I'll definitely help you, man. Just reach out to me. Professor Black, she's done. I'm in the remedial class. He's talking like a PhD level. This is the remedial class, Nash. This is super beginning. This is pre-beginning for AWS. This is pre-beginning. You just probably got to go from the beginning and check the first video. I think this is my fourth one. I'm going to create a playlist. I think I got this intermingled with Security Plus. I'm gonna give it its own playlist, and I'm gonna do that today. So subnets, we've been breaking that. A subnet is a section of VPC in which you can group resource based on security operational needs. Subnets can be public or private. Public subnets contain resources that need to be accessible by public, such as an online store. Private subnet contains resources that should be accessible only through your private network, such as databases that contain customers' personal information or auto histories. And the VPC subnets can communicate with each other. For example, you might have an application that involves ES2 instance in a public subnet communication with databases that are located on a private subnet. And I think that's going to be our first lab in 2022. Right, we're going to do EC2. He has a built-in web server. We're going to drop a flat JSON file on there in JSP. Then when you click the JSP, it's going to use the built-in Lambda server to query our JSON flat file to populate our JSP. Right. So I think that's going to be our first lab in Amazon, in AWS. So that's it. We've been talking about our subnets, routing, public and private. So that's one reason I always tell people, even when you move into the cloud, you want to understand those basic concepts. Network is a basic concept, part of programming, of course, part of help desk, part of like I said, programming, building apps, pipelines, checking in apps, SDLC, software development lifecycle. Because when you go to the cloud, all the stuff you done on prem, you're just really moving it to the cloud, right? So that's where all those skills kind of stack. Shout out to women in Linux. We stack. She always talking about stacking skills. You got to stack your skills on top, right? Because in the end, you want to get to that architect level, SRE, top security level, right? I do security, right? So as a security, I don't need to be a SME in every level, but I got to understand every level, right? Because I'm not a SME in machine learning, but I need the security questions to ask engineering cannabis, right? So I can at least be able to understand the language and how we're going to secure this data, right? And two is how we're going to validate the data to make sure it's appropriate, right? And here's the AWS, a quick graph. And we've been talking about you got the public subnet for your web servers, then your private subnet, once again, for the databases. We've been talking about routing, right? How does that public subnet traffic gets to the private subnet, which is the database? And how do you return that data back to the web service to show that data to the user, right? So all that's part of the infrastructure, right? So network traffic in the VPC. So when a customer requests data from an application hosted in AWS cloud, the request is sent as part of a packet. A packet is a unit of data sent over the internet. It enters VPC through the internet gateway. Before a packet can enter a subnet or exit a subnet, it's checked for permissions. These permissions indicate if the sent packet and how the packet is trying to communicate with the resource in the subnet. The VPC communicates that check package permission is set in the subnets known as network access control list, which is called ACL, right? ACL, right? That's one thing I do hate about IT. It's an acronym from everything, and it's probably 1,000 of them at least, right? So when the network access control list, it's a virtual firewall that controls the inbound, outbound traffic at the subnet, right? We saw the subnet. We know they're communicating, right? So we have a firewall there that can check the packet. Each AWS account includes a default network ACL, When configuring VPC, you can use your account's default networking or create custom network ACLs by your default account network. ACL allows inbound and outbound traffic, but you can modify by adding your own rules. For custom network ACLs, all inbound and outbound traffic is denied until you add rules to specify which traffic to allow. Additionally, all network traffic ACLs have explicitly denied rules. These rules ensure that if a packet does not match any of the rules on the list, the packet is denied. Right. So as there's a network control list. We've been looking at subnets. So when your packet flows in from the internet, it's going to hit that network ACL control list and it's going to check the packet, right? So what's some of the basic things you can check for? I'm an Apache guy, right? So Apache server is going to be on that public subnet. So I know all the traffic that's coming in on that network is going to be 80, 443, which is HTTPS. When you bring up your web page, you see the lock. That means it's encrypted. That's 443. 80 and probably 443. And SSH, right? When the admins need to come and work on that, right? So any packets come in there is going to say, hey, are you coming from the web, 80? You can go to that public subnet. I trust you. If a hacker comes in, shout out to Gabe or Alpha Cybersecurity or Engineering Cannabis got hacking still. So if they're trying to hack something and they're using some other port, the network access control list will be like, oh, that is 389 is LDAP. I just know this because I've been knowing those forever. Oh, you can't get there from here, so I'm blocking that packet and you can't get in, right? So that makes it difficult for the hackers to get to our information because unless they're using the right ports, they can't even get into our VPC, right? So those are some things, and we're going to delve down a little bit, right? But that's some of the beginning stuff of security. So network ACLs perform a stateless packet filtering. They remember nothing and check packets that cross the subnet border each way. So when a packet comes in, that's inbound. When we send it back out to the internet, that's outbound, right? This is this is similar to sending requests out from EC2 instance and to the internet. When the packet response for the request comes back to the subnet, the network ACLs does not remember the previous request, and the network ACLs check the packet response against the list of rules to determine whether to allow or deny. So remember this, the subnet ACLs, which is the network packet. When you come in, it doesn't remember you came through the door. So when you go out, I got to double check it, right? Are you going out on port 80 like you came in? Are you going out port 4 SS3? Or did somebody hack it and now you trying to steal my information and send it to a different process in Russia, right? So when you going back out on internet, the network ACLs are going to be like, I need to check that packet again to make sure it's true and it never got changed or I call it malware or encrypted, right? So those are the things that the network packet check can do. So the other part of that is called security groups. Security group is a virtual firewall that controls, once again, the inbound and outbound traffic for its Amazon EC2 instance. By default, a security group denies that all inbound traffic and all outbound traffic is. You can add custom rules to configure which allow or deny traffic. If you have multiple EC2 instances with subnets, you can have the same security group on instance, or you can have different ones on each one of those, right? So here's the EC2 instance, right? With EC2 instance, you can have a database on it, you can have Apache on it, you can have Tomcat on it, you can have IIS on it, but whatever software you have running on this VM, right? You got security groups directly in front of that, right? Which is additional rules, right? So when my web server makes a call, right? It comes in on 80. When you actually go into Apache on there, Apache listens on port 80 in that particular VM, right? So I'm have certain rules on that VM to say only look for IIS or Apache traffic. That's a security group, right? So now we learn security on top of security to make sure, we're protected. And of course, we're going to have some diagrams and dig a little deeper in there. And two, we're going to lab it. So I know it's a lot on you at one time, but you got multiple security checks, right? Because we're AWS, right? You could put anything from Department of Defense data in here, or you could put Professor Black Ops security, Black Ops rib stuff in there, right? So whatever level of security you need, AWS has, right? And you could do super layers or a few layers, right? Let's see. Slaying dragons every day. How about you? Adrian Nash, Christmas decorations. Uh, all good, AO. Professor Blacks, I gladly trade you some of that delicious vegetable curry to understand you're talking about today. But I might need to excuse myself. You all good, Adrian Nash. Thank you for the support. um, so let's talk about security groups, right? Security groups are stateful packets. They remember the previous destination made for incoming packets. Consider the same example of sending requests out from an EC2 instance from the internet. When a packet responds from the request returns to the instance, the security group will remember the previous request. The security group allows the response to proceed regardless of the endpoint on security group. Right? So it knows you came on a Tomcat. It knows that that packet needs to go back out of that particular virtual machine. So the security group knows, hey, I remember this packet comes in. I know the source destination. I remember all of this. Oh, they added a payload. Since I know it came in, I know it's good going out, right? So I'm gonna let the packet go out, and it'll be fine. So that's the difference between networking packets and security group, right? Networking is stateless. Security groups are stateful, meaning I remember you came in, so I don't need a security check when you go out, right? But remember, that's the first part. When it leaves, it's still gonna have to go through the network ACLs. So now the network ACLs are gonna do a second check for, does this traffic get to go out? Is it on the right port? Is that the port we letting go out right? So that's the dual layer, right, of AWS. And when you do security, it's called security in depth, right? We want to do security layers, right? So that's the cool part. And two is, we talking in 2021, we labbing in 2022. So we're gonna set this up in real life. I think I'm actually do a small class. I'm gonna do some write up sheets, and we can walk through them. And the cool thing is, with Amazon, you get a year free for a lot of their services. So I'll make sure that all those services are free. I'll do a packet and we can walk through the packet. And if you want to walk through the packet on your own and do it, and if you get stuck, you can reach out to me on when we're doing our AWS class, and we can actually, I'm gonna actually be walking through a lot of those. So if you get stuck, I'll actually be walking through those exercises I'm gonna set up anyway. The more I think about it, so that's kind of how we're gonna set it up. So, and the other cool thing about security groups, if you pick Windows, it's gonna be Windows. I'm a Linux guy, so I did Amazon EC2 groups for Linux. A security group acts as a virtual firewall for your EC2 instances, controlling the incoming outgoing traffic. Inbound rules control the incoming traffic for your instance, right? Which is a Linux instance. I probably would be doing the Amazon Linux 2 instance. And outbound rules control with the outgoing traffic from your instance. When you launch an instance, you specify one or more security groups. If you don't specify security group, Amazon EC2 uses the default security group. You can add rules for each group that allows traffic to or from your associated instance. Right? So if I got certain processes running, or I got certain processes coming in, right, I can add additional rules to make sure we're locked down, right? And once again, we trying to stop hackers, right? That's the main thing. So that's what you're doing on security groups, and that's going to take care of probably 50 to 60% of your hackers, right? If you got your network routing traffic correct, you got your network access control set, and you have your security groups set right, you're blocking where hackers could move on your network. You're blocking where they go. And so remember, even if they get to a certain subnet, if they don't have MFA and the UBA key for the USB, they couldn't move around anyway, right? So we just adding more and more security layers, more and more tightening down. So this is a huge concept. So I'm saying engineers, I can't take my class. I'm on one special. Now y'all good this next thing on it. Like Dragon, I'm going to feed them. Shout out to that. I think that's Game of Thrones, maybe with the dragons. Shout out to the Unsullied. I love that show. It was actually scarring me mentally when I was watching Game of Thrones, but that's a separate video. They are brutal in that series. Um, so this is a key concept, and I tell this to all the businesses I work for and all the security people. Amazon security is a shared responsibility between AWS and you. AWS provides security groups as one of the tools for securing your instance. You need to configure them to meet your security requirements. If you have requirements that aren't met by security groups, you can maintain your own firewall or any of your instances in addition to security groups. So I always get nervous when people tell me I'm secure, I'm on AWS. I go, yeah, they got part of it, but you have part of it. So I get a lot of small companies telling me that. When people tell me that, the first thing I know is they don't know jack about security, right? Amazon gives you the components. You still have to configure them. You still have to make them work. You're still responsible for them. What's up? I need to figure out how to fit it. Glad for joining. So this is it at the top level. So you got the coming from the internet. Got your internet packet. We talked about the internet gateway. We letting you into the public subnet. You're gonna cross our network ACLs, right? So it's gonna check. Once again, I do Apache, so it's gonna be 80 or 443 because we're doing security. If it's not that, the network access control list is gonna block you. If you're meeting those ports, they're gonna let you in. Once you get in, remember the security group is gonna say, "Hey, you're on the Apache. Apache's section 80. Then Apache's going to call our private subnet. I should have put a picture on, which our Tomcat's listening on port 8080. So when it leaves my security group, right, I'm going to check to make sure that traffic is going to 8080. If it's not going to 8080, I'm blocking it because that means somebody hacked there or I have a malicious actor on it, right? So that's how I'm using those different levels of security, right, to make sure my infrastructure is secure. And once again, we're gonna lab this every day, and not every day. I just like this thing in 2022, and like I said, we'll start some basic classes. Get everybody flowing in that AWS, and I'm hoping to be climbing a lot of people. B2B, Women of Linux, Black Heights, Network Bruh. Uh, what's my man? The programmer. He's in there. So there's a lot of people. We're gonna collab and make things happen. So this right here is more of an actual small company architectural designs coming up. Got to show support. Shout out to everybody. I appreciate it. So if you look at the top now, this is kind of a more complicated mid-sized company. So when you come in, right at the top, you got the internet gateway, right? Those are people coming from internet. Then you got your router. Your router is going to send you to, your network access coming from your internet. Then you got the virtual private gateways. Usually people work from home, people in the company, your system admins, they're coming in that side, right? And they're going to get routed to the other section, right? So they can get to those instances and where they need to work, right? Both that side too is going to have MFA because those guys are working on corporate information, right? And if you go into the databases, right, the DBA stuff, right, we're going to once again give you the USB drive with that, right? So you have the MFA, right? But the two, remember, we routing the traffic, we checking our network access control, and we checking the security groups, right? So that's three levels of control before you even get into our infrastructure, right? We're controlling the route, we're controlling with the network ACLs, and we're controlling with the security group, right? The network ACLs are stateless, the security groups are stateful, right? So um, and on the other side, same thing coming in with the internet gateway routing. Depending on where you're coming from, it's going to route you to the public table or default table. If not, you go in and there's the RDS MySQL. So if you're an admin, you come in there, once again, come in and hit you with the MFA. You get to the database, hit you with the USB key, right? Those are, we call it the security onions. We got multiple levels of security trying to get to us. Facts on the Soho router, right? So yeah, you gotta have those, like you said, for the home routers. And two is, a lot of times come through those routers, your PC or your workstation. We're going to give you corporate equipment, and your corporate equipment is going to have a static IP address. Then I'm only going to let that IP address get to certain subnets in my infrastructure right now. But shout out to the Soho routers; those are good routers. So as part of this is when you move around in the web, domain name service. So that kind of happens behind the scene. Any company has a website hosted on AWS cloud. The customer enters a web address into their browser, and they access the website. That happens because the domain name system DNS resolution involves a customer's DNS resolvers communicating with a DNS server. You could think the DNS server being a public phone book to the internet. That's commonly said by everybody. The DNS resolves your resolution process, translating domain name to an IP address. Right? So when you go to routers and packets, they're going by IP address, not www.amazon.com or Facebook. When you put that in, it goes out to a DNS server and it says, "Oh, this IP address goes with this thing. Go out by the IP address." That's really what I need to move around the internet, right? So this is a poor example of that. So the customer's PC is right there. Then it calls to the customer's DNS resolver. It says, what is the IP address for that company's website? The DNS server tells us it's 192.0.2. 192, of course, is a private IP address for that company. It probably sends them company documentation, and it sends that information back to the customer's PC, right? So that's really what's been happening behind the scenes when you're doing www. Now it's actually sending the IP behind that, right? So if you do a DNS lookup of uh, YouTube.com, it'll show you the IPs that it's being connected to. It uses both. It uses both, JM. It uses a 6 or IPv4. I gotta start doing more IPv6. I'm getting lazy, and IPv6, of course, is the future. I've just been doing IPv4. I shit you not, for 34 years. I'm much more comfortable with the 4, but I need to grow up and start using the 6. Um, So part of the DNS, Amazon has their feature, the DNS, to help you set that up, and you can actually give yourself a domain name that actually take your domain name and give you an IP address, right? It's called Route 53. It's a DNS web server. Of course, that's on their test. So Amazon Route 53 connects your request to the infrastructure run on AWS. It also connects it to EC2 instances and load balancers. It can route users to infrastructure outside of AWS. Another feature of Route 53 is its ability to manage DNS records for domain names. You can register new domain names directly in Route 53. Like most people use GoDaddy to registers their company's name with their IP address. You can do that too. 53 port. 53 port is DNS. Ooh, is that a statement, Erica, or a question? Glad you could show up, Erica. Appreciate the support. So when you go to Route 53, it's going to say, okay, this is the IP address. It's going to route you back to the AWS infrastructure. You told it to route through with that WW Professor Black Ops, right? So then it'll take you through the CloudFront. CloudFront's going to take you through the load balancers. And once again, it's going to take you back to those EC2 instance. Then, like another video, we talked about auto scaling EC2 instance. Then we know from that picture, from that, you got to go through network echoes. Then on the EC2, of course, we're going to have the security groups on there, right? So we're going to have multi-layer security. Of course, Route 53 has additional security. That's more of advanced. It has DNS security, so nobody steals your name, and they calling it poisoning or trying to mess up your route table where your name matches your IP address. It's called DNS poisoning. So, of course, AWS has a lot of built in features for that. Of course, you can buy a few more. So, That's part of that. So part of Route 53. This is another look at it. So your Route 53, you coming through Amazon. You can actually go through GoDaddy because they have services, right? And that usually goes from GoDaddy, gets your IP address from GoDaddy if you do Route 53. Then it would actually send you to the EC2 private server. Then that private server says you have a static web page on S3. Then that S3 bucket, like we said, queried your images, queried your data, right, and brought it back to the user, right? So that's how Route 53 manages your DNS with your IP address. Would you recommend USI? Ooh, did you mistype that, JM? And this is my go-to one at the front. And this is majority of the companies, and this is the base setup. That's Route 53 at the top. You hit the load balancer, right? Then once again, we know there's network ACLs. Then around that web server, right, is security groups, right? So once you do that, it's going to go out. It says, okay, I need the application server. All right, so Tomcat's going to have your Java code on it. The Java code is going to query your database. Your database is going to send information back up to the application server. The security group is going to be like, oh, I remember you. I'm not going to check it. The network access session is going to like, I don't remember who you are, so I'm going to pull it. Right, so it's going, and once again, as it goes back to the web server, it's going to check your network ACLs. It's going to check your security groups, right? Then it's going to bring that information like you were querying Amazon, everybody shopping. Then it's going to bring that information back to you as a user, right? On the side of that, 5 and 6 is the X3 buckets, but that's kind of what a network architecture look for a small, medium company. Of course, there's going to be more servers, probably more layers, but that's the standard 3-tier architecture with security most people are using today, right? And once again, I'm about that federal life, that federal computer, and that they require you to have that set up, right? Or something similar to that to actually pass a security. Shout out, Stateful remembers 100%. Those security groups are stateful. So that's it. That chapter was pretty short. Once again, shoot any questions in there. Trying to get over this cold. I'm getting old. It's wearing me out. But I'm making it though. I can't complain. I go get me a little lunch. Once again, something short. I'm glad everybody support me. Everybody have a great weekend. Like I said, I'll stay around for a couple more questions if had anything. Thanks for supporting me. Okay, at the end of this lesson, can you go through an example of an entire life cycle of a single packet? Um, yeah, why not? I think I did it on my last one, but yeah. So when a packet comes in, why not? From the one, that's the user. 53 is the DNS server. So once again, it's going to get your packet. It's going to go through the load balancer. Like we said, going through the web server, it's going to go through your network control list and your security groups. Right? That's the web page. As you like you're on Amazon, you querying stuff. That's Java code or C# code is on the application server. So that packet's going to go down there. That packet is going to get low with information in your database. Like when you ask for a list of customers, ask for a list of things, that packet is going to flow back through your application server, go back to your web server, and that actually would be your list of stuff that you ordered on Amazon. Why not? Let me know if that was a good enough description. Why not? That's high level, but um, that's basically how a packet moves. Now I can get super specific. You want to talk about how it moves up on the OSI level, how it actually comes in the application layer, actually works its way through the switches, actually work its way to the hard metal and zeros and ones actually on a network list. That's called the OSI model. So there's different versions of that. Why not? So let me know if that was specific or you want me to go a little deeper into that. Peroxide, nail salt. So I'll try that. I got a little peroxide here too. So that's it. I hope everybody has a great weekend. Let's go out there and get it. Everybody's holiday month, so everybody be careful out there. I'm hoping to take a few more days. I would love specifics, but I understand if not today. Um, I'll do a video specifically for that. Why not? And I'll do on the OSI model and get a little more specific for you on that. Why not? Um, or I add that to one of my videos, because I don't think I have anything super specific on actually on the packets. Um, so I actually add a video on that, and I'll make that happen. Why not? No milk. Oh, don't say that. I know I've been cheating on that. That's why I got all that mucus, Eric. Cause shout out, I've been eating way too much cheese, and yeah, I got to do better, man. Shout out to Dr. Sabi. I need to get more on my alkaline and get alkaline my body more and push all that mucus out. Cut that beard off. I'm trying to look young. Eric, could be easy on the old guy. I appreciate you though. Uh, what is the relationship between AWS and Nexus? Um, Everybody wants to be on AWS. Nexus, for what I use it for is scanning for compliance. So when you set up stuff in AWS that you're trying to get compliance for, like we try to get federal compliance, and I do a lot of work with IRS, Joe Schmo. So when I set up my infrastructure in AWS, I use Nexus to validate that I'm in compliance with whatever federal agency I'm working for. So that's what I use it for, Joe Schmo. Game over. Shout out. Would you recommend using a public secure DNS like Quad 9 for my soul, or should I stick to my ISP DNS? I probably would use the ISP DNS because they're controlling a lot of their traffic um, inside their own infrastructure. I need to think about that a little more. JM, just off the top of my head, I would say ISP. The on and out. Facts, why not? I know. I don't eat it. I don't drink. Well, nobody drinks milk anymore. I used to drink whole milk as cereals in the '80s when I was a kid watching the Super Friends. I can't believe I used to drink whole milk as a kid. I try to drink whole milk. I feel like I was drinking like pure cream. So shout out to why not. I've been hydrating. I've been drinking my Essentia pH balanced water. Uh, the top water. I think I'm too old for both of those, Erica. I'm gonna let that go. Thanks for you welcome, Joe Smo. And why not? I got that on my list. I think I'm gonna do a short OSI model, actually how it goes up the packet and actually come down from your router, actually how it gets to the metal and one zeros and one from actually a nibble actually is a 4 byte packet, why not? So yeah, I might go old school on that. I might go old school on that. Facts, man. You can't even drink whole milk, man. I looked at whole milk. I thought I was drinking like cream. It was so thick, man. So I like I said, I barely drink, but I love cheese and vodka, man. So I definitely I love like special pepper cheeses and hot cheeses. I love to get a nice premium vodka and be cutting cheese up. I don't know. I got to do better though. Why not? I got to do better, especially at my age. I'm 53, man. I got to tighten it up. Have you had a flu bomb? If you don't want to tell the drop recipe drop the recipe in the comments. Miss Nash, help me out and thank you. You're welcome. I don't know about the other one. That might not be a good look, Erica. That might not be a look. Shout out to the whole meal. Everybody have a good day. I'm getting out of here. Let me drop that in the comments, Nash, and I'm gonna cut out. Thanks everybody for joining. I think I'm gonna do Thursday I did an ageism video. I think I'm gonna do if I was in middle school, what would I recommend somebody from square one to get in IT and specifically in cybersecurity? The steps I will recommend for you super young. What is your steps and what would I recommend as there, of course we all know there's multiple passes, multiple ways to get in here. Of course we got to get around a gatekeeper, but um, I was arguing with my grandson. I was telling him I was going to teach him a program. He told me no, so I told him I had to pay him. So shout out, that is it. So if you're in middle school, ITF Foundation, the A plus, and the Network Plus. I think you can do that in middle school and high school to kind of get you stepped up, right? Then step your toe is because for me, you you got to go networking or programming. So I always kind of want to start with programming, even though I think networking is more foundational. I think I'm just programming biased. I just like the creating stuff and having your stuff run on stuff, right? So when your program breaks, you got to figure out what's wrong with the VM. You got to figure out what's wrong with the database. You got to figure out wrong with why is your web server not connecting to the application server. You as the programmer don't, but you got to work with those teams to help them figure out what's happening, right? So that's why I'm program biased. That's cool. So yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. That's what I'm gonna do. Why not? So I'm gonna lay it out like for the CompTIA based search, then move up to okay, we doing this stuff on prem on our network. Now let's actually move it to the cloud, right? The cool thing with moving it to the cloud is number one, you get a year free, and number two is you don't have to go buy. Like when I first started, I bought 4 servers off of Dell's website. Of course, I was in my 25s, but I had to buy hardware. You can just spin up VMs now and run it. You can actually get a big workstation and run multiple VMs. But I like that multiple different machines because I like you actually have to physically have your network packets hop from one machine to another, right? Because I can run a whole setup on a laptop, but that doesn't show you your networking, right? Like we talked about, how is it routing? Where is it going? Is it getting lost? Do you have your default route set up to get so your packets can get back out to the internet to get your information, right? All that from a programming perspective, right? And two is I keep putting all this on my plate. I'm hoping to teach middle school on YouTube with handouts how to program PHP. Right, my grandson's 7, so I'm gonna try to go from 7 to 10 on PHP, and so they can get those skills. So I think I am out. Like I said, I'm getting a little congestion. I'm thinking, I think I ate some cheese. All right, health is wealth, and I gotta do a much better job on that. And make sure I get my checkups and make sure I go to the doctor when I'm supposed to go to the doctor. Especially in my 50s, ain't the 20-year-old ain't the 20-year-old Professor Black Ops, ain't the 30-year-old, it ain't the 40-year-old Professor Black Ops, it's 50. Facts, Erica, you talking truth. You talking truth. She laying out the true game. But I'm out, everybody. Thanks for joining me. Like I said, I'm sure I probably so that's what I think I'm gonna do. What I would do for square one, especially if you got young kids or if I started back out, what would be the blueprint, from that. And if I didn't want to go to college and step, I'd probably go to a local community college. You can do a lot of that through remote. So so I'm gonna lay all that out in the stream. Of course, do a little slideshow and just kind of go through and like I said, this is one of the blueprints. Like I said, there's so many ways, but if I was a young person, um, what would I do? And two is along the way is if I got these skills, what summer internships can I get? Right? I got these skills. What people can I network to? Maybe work on the weekends, right? Maybe do help desk a little bit after school because we all know when you call help desk for most of these companies, you get people in India. So obviously you could do remote help desk anywhere, right? So you can get some of that work, the first level, to some young people, right? Because if they can't figure it out, they can always pass it along like most people do. So that's it, y'all. I'm ready to shut it down. I want to appreciate everybody for supporting me and y'all see me around these YouTube streets.